is truly the final frontier. No, really. For us here at Singularity University, we actually prepare for that end state, that abundant future that we all want to create. And so for us, the definition of the end state for the GGC of space is a safe and equitable use and stewardship of space resources and technologies for the benefit of humanity and our future as a multiplanetary species. So today, we mostly take for granted the applications and implications of space technology to our day-to-day lives, whether it's navigation, communication, weather monitoring. We can also use space technologies to actually solve the other global grand challenges that you've seen today. At the same time, we also take for granted that 24/7, we are under threat by space hazards like solar flares and also asteroids. Actually, last night, if you heard from the news, there was a 100-feet asteroid that actually did a flyby, 2 times the length of the geosynchronous orbit, and we only knew about it about a few hours from when it was detected. The other thing as well is that with 7 billion people now in population, and the mortality rate is going down, and of course, we're living longer, we definitely need to be a multiplanetary species. But the thing is, exponential technologies is going to make that happen. Today, exponential technologies has actually demonetized and democratized goods and services also in the space industry. So much so that 2 guys in a garage can actually work on a moonshot and then also compete with space agencies, governmental space agencies, and also the big aerospace companies today. Today, we have companies that are actually talking about themselves as asteroid miners. We have companies that actually have constellations up in space and wanting to actually monitor the health of the planet 24/7. And yesterday, you also heard that there's a startup that is actually going to be going to the moon very soon. And even the traditional organizations like Google and Facebook are actually working on exponential technologies to disrupt the industry. So for us, really, the bottom line is that we are no longer bystanders, even in this moonshot industry. And we would like to work on being a multiplanetary species and be moonshot thinkers, not just for Earth, but also off-planet. So I want to actually invite our co-judge and then also our sponsor for the GGC Space Award to give a little bit of an understanding of why space has a relevance for them and their organization.
Hello. Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and many thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here because it has really been a kind of bowl of fresh air, a lot of ideas for me. I'm actually belonging to the European Space Agency, so of course space is highly relevant, and I'm working on the Earth observation part, so looking at the planet. So what I take from this meeting is several messages. First one is that space for the last, let's say, 6 decades since the launch of Sputnik has done a lot of achievement. We heard about telecoms, your TV channel, weather forecasting, monitoring the planet, exploring new planets, new worlds, but most of this has been done by the public sectors, like NASA and European Space Agency. But today there is a real renaissance driven by the private sectors, and it's not only the big guys like Google, Facebook, and Amazon of this world, but also smart individuals that I've seen here in this room, and in particular by visiting the stands. So a few people can actually have a dramatic impact. What I've seen here is really disruptive. It goes beyond the simple tool and technology. It can change the way we conceptualize mission, we do business in space, etc. So I really welcome this new renaissance driven by the private sectors and by imaginations. It really inspires people. And that means new challenges and opportunities for the public sectors like ESA. We have to reposition ourselves. We can do that, maybe at a different pace, but we will keep doing science because one of our drivers is to understand the planet. So we will build missions that are at the edge, different from the private sector's missions to better understand the planet. There is also a revolution going on in Europe for the moment. It's called Copernicus. We are launching a fleet of satellites called the Sentinels that are doing operational monitoring of the planet at 10-meter resolution every 10 days for the next decades. So this is really unique in the world. The data is open and free. And you could see this as a kind of GPS of Earth observation. So it will be open data so that downstream companies and entrepreneurs can come and build their application on it. And this is in perfect synergy with what we have seen here because we contribute to the same objective, which is increasing the demand for Earth observation. But the biggest challenge for me is not the technology, it's really building the understanding and the language on how to use this petabyte of data that will be flowing to us. And we need to work with communities to do that. So it's basically doing partnership and talking to people so that we build this common language to understand this. And I find this very exciting, so looking forward to this. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Kyle. I'm the odd man out like I usually am in every other situation. I'm Kyle Nell and I run the Lowe's Innovation Labs. Lowe's is a big Fortune 50 home improvement retailer. And you're probably wondering why I'm up here doing the Space Prize. You know, Lowe's, we sell stuff that makes people's lives better and their homes better. But really what we do is we're a purpose-driven company and we help people love where they live. And the way we do that is through home improvement. That might sound like hokey and silly, but we really believe that. And that's why we are focused on space. The problems that we have here on Earth, and we will have in other places, are exacerbated in the extreme in space. So if we can solve that problem for space, we can definitely solve it down here. And so we've chosen to partner with our great friends in Made in Space to be able to do really exciting things, the first of which is a 3D printer that's in the International Space Station right now, printing real Lowe's tools. Does anybody know that? We're printing Lowe's tools? Well, if you didn't even know what Lowe's was, it's pretty cool. And we're going to continue to do that and continue to partner with Uncommon Partners, both to make space more of an actual place where you could live and work, but also to make life here on Earth better.
So without further ado, I'm really delighted, proud to announce the GGC Space recipient, Made in Space.
It's an honor to accept the award. We're just really excited to be here. My name's Jason Dunn. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO of Made in Space, and this is Andrew, and he's our CEO and president. I'm going to tell you just really quick about some of the things that we're doing at Made in Space and help frame everything that Emeline just talked about, and then hand it over to Andrew to say a little more if he'd like to. So for the history of space exploration, over half of a century, we've been going to space exactly the same way, which is on the backs of chemical rockets, chemical propulsion. And that's, in a way, extremely inefficient. Only about 2% of a rocket is the thing we want in space, and the other 98% or so is the fuel and the structure and the engines and all the things that make up a rocket to get it there. It takes a lot of energy to leave Earth's gravity well. So at Made in Space, we were rethinking that idea when we started the company, and we created what today is the only alternative to rockets to getting things into space, and that's manufacturing there. So we build 3D printers, and currently we have 2 3D printers on the space station. We're building things both for NASA and for the astronauts, and also for commercial organizations around the world. This is a picture of Butch Wilmore. He was an astronaut on the space station in 2014, and when his tool went missing, we were able to 3D print him a new one in just 2 hours, sending the digital file to the printer, printing it out, and 2 hours later, this picture was taken of Butch holding his tool. So that's really the fastest anything can be sent into space. If Butch were on Mars, it's really the same story. So that's been kind of the humble beginnings of Made in Space, to build the technology backbone for manufacturing in microgravity. We're now working on some bigger picture things. We have a contract. First I'll show you this. So here's a picture of what the printer looks like. Kyle mentioned the Lowe's involvement. Lowe's is a very big part of this making this work. And we've also, over the course of doing this, we've released an open source platform so developers around the world can actually work with us to make the technology better and better. And now that we have that, we're building on top of that. We have a program with NASA called Archinaut. It's a public-private partnership between Made in Space and NASA, and we're developing technology that builds very big things in space. So imagine today everything is constrained to fit into a rocket, survive the launch loads. With Archinaut, it's a spacecraft that when it gets into space, it begins building very giant structures, like this image of a very large communication satellite. And what we imagine is that today's satellites are designed really to fit into the launch vehicle and survive launch, but in the future we'll have satellites that look unlike any other satellite you've ever imagined, very large and designed really perfectly for that environment. And then the last thing I'll mention, which is almost could seem like a departure from everything I just talked about, but at the core it's all about manufacturing in space. And this really comes back to how do we solve some of the world's biggest problems. What we're focused on are, just as much as we are about how do you build things in space that stay there in space, we're also focused on the things that you could only make in space but are needed here on Earth. And that really has the potential to change the world. If you can make things there, we bring industry into space, we create a bigger reason for there to be a presence there. So today we're working on a program that makes optical fiber in space, and it turns out that that can be much, much higher quality optical fiber than silica fiber that we have today. The math says up to 100 times better. So these are some of the things that we're working on today. The list goes on, and Andrew, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, again, thank you to Singularity University for putting this amazing event on, and for selecting us. It's a huge honor, and those few things that Jason just ran through are just a few of the things that we're doing to help people live and work better in space, so that we can one day, get off this rock and colonize the solar system, as well as, flowing all the technology back down here to the Earth and enriching and enabling people to live and work better here. So, thank you all so much for having us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.